Welcome to a very special episode of Jeroen Douglas' Breakfast Brief. Jeroen is leaving Solidaridad, and while we will certainly be back with you with another podcast at some point in time, this is the finale of this specific series. A final episode with reversed roles. This time, Jeroen can explain us what his breakfast looks like. But there's more to discover. Why is Jeroen leaving? And what does he see as Solidaridad's biggest failure? Join us as we sit down with our visionary leader, a rebel with a cause, who has spent 30 years at the forefront of global change. In this episode, we delve into his transformative journey from idealistic beginnings to the complex realities of today. Discover the insights, wisdom, and the unwavering determination of a man who still believes in making a difference every day. Welcome to your breakfast brief, Jeroen.
My pleasure.
Today we're going to reverse the roles because you are leaving us, and with that you're also leaving your breakfast brief. But before we go into that, of course, my first question to you is, what does your breakfast look like, Jeroen?
I try to start with some Greek yogurt, fresh fruit, and some cereals. And I need coffee. For me, coffee is like oxygen. If I don't get coffee, Elsa, I just don't breathe.
How many cups do you drink a day?
Depends whether it's a work day or whether it's a free day. Work day, I'm ashamed to say, but when it's a free day, it will be 2 or 3.
Okay, well, that's reasonable. Hey, and you are leaving Solidaridad. Why? Why are you leaving us?
Yeah, that's a good question. So our beloved predecessor, Nico Rosen, his first reaction to my information to him that I move on was, well, the work is never done. And that's precisely it. You know, after 30 years, you can always want more and more and more, but the work is never done. We have a very broad agenda worldwide. And I thought, well, it's time for a change. I came straight from the university to Solidaridad. I'm now in my 60th year. I'm 59. And if my surrounding allows and my body allows and my mind allows, I can maybe work another 10 years. And I thought, wow, there is even a life beyond Solidaridad.
Yes, there is. And what does it look like, Jeroen?
Well, in the core, it's not so much of a difference. So I've been appointed to become the Director General of the International Cooperative Alliance. It's the eldest NGO of Europe. They were founded in 1895. I'm the 7th chief of that organization, starting per 1 January, based in Brussels, with a global scope. So the cooperative movement started in the mid-19th century. In the core, it's a correction to brutal market forces. Can we find a way how to distribute wealth among community, build community wealth within a proper business case? That's the essence of a cooperative enterprise. The global international cooperative alliance, that is sorts of a judge or an empire that sets the rules for proper cooperativism, enables exchange, develops also legal support to countries, because there are over 100 countries that participate in the cooperative alliance. Actually, the work of Solidaridad isn't a big change to the work of the ICA. I see them more like cousins, not like brothers or sisters, but more like cousins. So in the core, the essence is to build an economy that works for all, Elsa.
Yeah. So that's looking forward, but also looking back, because 30 years Solidaridad, that's no small feat by any measure. Going back to those early days, how was that? Can you describe that to us?
Sure, although it's a bit sketchy, you know, and you try to make a story. But if I really look what drove me to Solidaridad, I think there were like 3 things. One is my basic attitude and education. Studying anthropology and liberation theology was like a normal basic start that fits well with Solidaridad. Secondly, it was my then tutor in my PhD, who was also a board member to Solidaridad, who advised me to take a look because he saw that I was too energetic to again dive 3 years behind books and write. But the other reason was also my awareness that we were at the start of a unprecedented globalization process of economy, and there was this optimistic belief that through some corrections of the markets, we can really build a global sustainable economy. And when I moved in, we just launched at Solidaridad the fair trade coffee label under the local name of Max Havelaar. And we were moving then to the next commodity, and that was bananas. So I got really enthusiastic about the idea to contribute to a globalization from a sustainability angle. So that was the true driver why I decided to join.
Can you describe how the office looked like and what the
Yeah,
organization was like at that time?
there was an office space that was giving space to some 7, 8, or 9 people. I think when I joined, I was number 8. It's a very tiny office. Nico Rosen was the one who stubbornly rejected the advice of the selection committee because there were other candidates. And he said, no, I want that guy. And apparently I impressed him in my presentation. And I got selected in a period where there was a labor crisis, early 90s. People from my age were called the lost generation. And I got selected out of, I think, 192 candidates.
Wow.
So
Great.
that was an honor to join. So yeah, I remember very well.
Yeah. And it's been quite a journey. You wrote this week on your LinkedIn that you did your last field visit last week for Solidaridad, was to Indonesia. Do you still remember your first field visit?
Oh, yes, very much.
Yeah.
It was interesting because the first campaign I joined was on bananas. So I wanted to know what was the issues in bananas. So the word that came to us was fruta química, chemical fruit. So I learned that for commercial export bananas, the full package of chemicals is used: fungicide, pesticides, nematicides. It was a huge package that gave the bananas the nickname chemical fruit. And also the working conditions were poor. So I went to Costa Rica, made a first visit to the banana trade unions, and they were in strong opposition to larger, in this case, American-based companies like Dole and Chiquita and Del Monte. And they were fighting for better labor conditions, but also for healthier work circumstances. I was impressed with, the conviction of the leaders of those banana trade unions. But I was also impressed to see the hard labor in the banana farms. I've never been in the tropics to a banana farm. So for me, that was an interesting experience. And with Gilbert Bermudez, the spokesman of the banana trades, I stood up in the European Parliament pleading for respecting ILO conventions. So yes, I have quite a journey with this banana chief.
Yeah. And if you compare that first visit to your most recent one, what are the biggest changes, or are there any changes that you see if you look at the situation of farmers?
Yeah, the organization we have visited in Kalimantan, in Indonesian Borneo, is a beautiful example of what I would call a solidarity economy. It's one of the products they produce is palm oil. It's I would say, a modest but relevant source of income for local and also a little bit export markets, but it's embedded in a much broader local circular inclusive development program. And we have seen that this large cooperative, CUKK, is not only running palm oil support program, but also having supermarkets, having a credit loan program, having a housing scheme, offering also health and education. So it's a very broad development program. And what I've seen in the period during the banana companies was just the traditional distinction between large estate holders on the one hand and repressed workers on the other hand. So what I've seen in Indonesia is a much more future-proof, I would say.
And where do you see our contribution to that? Like, if you look back 30 years, what is the biggest achievement of Solidaridad in improving the lives of farmers?
Yeah. I would think that our strength as Solidaridad is to develop the business case for farmers. So not only on the farm through better management practices and better farm practices, but also when it comes to linking farmers to their business environment. That's been always our strength. I see that also later on when we developed fair trade bananas on the Pacific coast of Costa Rica, where we were not working with those larger plantations, but with also individual co-ops. And also the banana farmers in Ecuador is also a cooperative of individual members. That has always been our strength. And when I look into the 10 years of collaboration with CUKK, that is also our dedicated strength. We are helping farmers to build a better farm practice on the one hand, and also organize market uptake on the other hand. That has always been Solidaridad's strength.
And if you look back, are there also things where you feel that we have failed as Solidaridad?
Well, what I said, I joined Solidaridad from the premise that we can use the power of globalization to create a better world, an economy that works for all. So building sustainable supply chains, I've learned, is something completely different than building a fair and honest society. So we have not been able to address what I would say the biggest of all problems, that is the very unequal wealth distribution. If you currently look, there's only 7 to 8% of global population that has at least 20,000 euros of income per year. And they all live in the Netherlands and our surrounding countries. And that means that the rest of the world is facing a hard time. So we were unable to really address I would say, the disbalance and the unjust situation in the global economy.
Isn't that also maybe a too big of a mission in a capitalist economic system to achieve that? Were we aiming high with that?
When we started the whole fair trade process, we genuinely believed that globalization, together with some correction on the perverse market components, would indeed create an honest and fair world. But so the ambition was good and also very necessary. And you now also see why it is so necessary. If you look to the privileged European situation, we're surrounded with gunfire from the Ukraine and Russia through the Levant to the Middle East and North Africa. It's a ring of fire that surrounds us. There is no space anymore to try to send out our Western normatives to the world. We have no legitimacy to speak anymore. We have failed. And that concerns me.
As a society, we have failed.
But we are also the inventors of those sustainability models and fair trade models. But the world doesn't buy it anymore. The sense of hatred that sits within the rest of the world towards the elite West is ever increasing. There is a very big crisis going on, and Solidaridad urgently needs to reinvent itself in order to avoid to be associated with this arrogant West that is so hated.
On hindsight, is there then anything that you would have done different?
We might have taken the decision earlier back to not so much focus on trying to change raw capitalism, so shareholder companies. I think we were a bit too arrogant and maybe overconfident that we could change companies like Unilever in the core. I think the Unilever case is most insightful.
Yeah.
It's when we signed a strategic partnership with Unilever back in 2012, we did that from the mutual assumption that we wanted to truly change the DNA in the cost structure of palm oil and of cocoa in particular, and of tea, of those three. And whilst working with this very large corporate, we ended up with the category managers, and they were vehemently against our desire to give full transparency on the costing, let alone change some of the cost components so as to get a truly better business case for farmers. And yeah, we are probably too long trying to box against those large multilaterals, whereas they only absorb others and become bigger and bigger. The oligopolies, they run the world, and that's a bit cynical. They have declared themselves as sustainable.
Yeah. Jeroen, you were also one of the big initiators of the whole network structure for Solidaridad. Did that work out as planned?
I think so, yes. And that's a beautiful innovation of Solidaridad itself. And there are various reasons why I think it worked out well. First of all, it is preparing a civil society organization for this century, a century that is moving away from traditional power center in the Netherlands or in the West. We have in the Netherlands a saying, it says Nederland gidsland, or the Netherlands being a guide to the world. Nowadays, that sounds truly preposterous. We are not that voice anymore. And the good thing is that, with the exception perhaps of my person, we have now a truly globalized, empowered leadership team with strong regional directors. It's also time that my successor would be someone from the global south. I really believe that. And then I think we have created an interesting model that can deliver with visions on sustainability from the global south. And that's a very strong format. We started the network from the awareness that we wanted to be a globalization from below. That is currently very much challenged as, we are facing geopolitical fragmentation. So is there one global agenda left? And then on top, the Sustainable Development Goals are more and more seen as a Trojan horse in the countries of destination, where larger corporates are bringing sometimes good news, but the agenda is not truly worn or supported anymore by many countries. It's been seen very much as a Western-dominated agenda. So I think Solidaridad has a unique situation, also in the way it's organized, to think beyond those traditional Western schemes. And the network in its structure has all the building blocks to be an interesting, I would say, countervailing power.
Nice. Yeah. And how do you see that evolving? Where do you think Solidaridad will be in 20 years' time or 30 years' time?
It really depends on the leadership in the organization. So if the leadership is complacent with what it currently does, I think we will soon disappear in vanity. But if we have, let's say, the maverick leadership style that also understands that remaining the same and thinking that your future lies in your past is wrong, but rather that your future lies in the future, then I think there is a huge future to Solidaridad.
Yeah. In that sense, what type of ED would you wish for Solidaridad?
Well, someone that can connect continuity with innovation, that understands that if you want to come far, you do it together, but that also comes with inspirational and practical solutions or ideas that really can deliver. And that's not an easy task. But if there is one constant in the work of Solidaridad, is what philosopher Heraclitus says, pantarei. The only constant there is that everything changes. So if we don't change as an organization, we get lost. I truly believe that if we manage to read the sign of the times and also see that the traditional hegemony of the West is disappearing, and we come with strong answers that is enrooted in local societies, then I think there is a strong future to Solidaridad. But if we, on the other hand, try to stick with, let's say, what is now being seen as the aggressors of the asymmetry in the world, yeah, then I think we will just not be the change agent we want to be. So
They-
that's a difficult job, to find a leader who can push that needle and to really get us above and beyond our traditional Western framing.
yeah, yeah. And if you could give Solidaridad one immaterial gift, farewell gift, some kind of power, superpower, or trade, what would it be?
Wow. I think purposeful leadership would be the gift to Solidaridad. And here's also the good news. With all the colleagues that speak, they are such idealists with also a practical mindset. And that's so beautiful to see. So if this purposeful leadership is well steered from the right sets of values and with the right future approach on where we want to go, that is the best gift we can give to this organization. Then we are really, I would almost say, the salt of the earth and help to create a better economy and a better, I would say, place to live for many people.
Nice. Jeroen, if you look back at your 20 or 30 years self, how have you yourself developed over the past year? Have you changed, or are you still the same person?
No. So Pantarei, everything streams, everything changes. I have also changed. I'm getting old, gray hairs, and there are some things that are the same though. I'm still very impatient and also angry. I'm a rebel with a cause. I've always been a rebel with a cause, and I still feel I am. If I need a T-shirt that tells my story, it would say "No time to waste," because I truly believe that the purpose why I am here on Earth is to help to take some injustices away. It sounds a bit pathetic, but that's been
Yeah.
my North Star, that has always driven myself every day. Also in my future job, I don't see much difference in that sense. So that's the same. The big change, obviously, is the huge experience. I had the fortune to be around in so many places. I've lived in 3 continents for a longer period of time. So this cosmopolitan, almost globalized worldview creates also some solitude, some loneliness sometimes, because you have so much comparison material. And it feels like unfair. If you speak to people in my village or wherever, I don't blame them, but they have a view on the world that is very much localized. Whereas I try to be in this locality mindset, right? So I want to be enrooted in my local community. I feel this very tribal instinct also deeper nowadays. But I can match it with a huge experience from the global world, which is also beautiful. Interconnectedness is also beautiful. So yeah, that's it, probably.
You already said you've visited so many countries throughout the world. Is there any favorite place?
There was someone who asked me that last week as well. Was interesting, yes. You know what? I liked Indonesia a lot, eh? And that just for the first time 2 weeks back, I felt a warmth there. And also in the world where I nowadays live, there is a lot of suspicion against the Muslims community. They are being seen sometimes even as a degraded culture and as a root cause for many violence. I was in Indonesia. I was visiting old Batavia, where the old Dutch colony houses are standing. And I saw only young Muslim girls and Muslim boys, and they were just happy and joyful. They were discussing with other people from another religion or another cultural identity, and it gave me a lot of hope. And I, in general, found Indonesia beautiful. Also, the whole history, its geographical beauty. Although it's been the first time I've been there, I would pick Indonesia.
Yeah. And I remember in your blog, you said something about the merchant and the priest. If you look at yourself, are you the merchant or are you the priest?
Yeah, I'm very Dutch, no doubt. The sense of guilt is always every day there. And if I was a merchant, I would have been much richer than I'm now. Uh, in financial terms, I feel very rich in all kinds of other dimensions. So I would, on a scale from 1 to 100, I would be more 70% in the preacher's side and 30% in the merchant side.
Yeah, because you have brought in also a lot of funds for Solidaridad, right? So that's also being a merchant.
No, I disagree. I think the preacher is good in tear jerking and getting financial support. The merchant is good in building business cases, and that's what I also did with some of our social enterprises we've developed on jeans, Koichi, on fair trade bananas, agrofair. So I did discover indeed that I like being in business environments. So yes. And I don't have any education in that background whatsoever. And not from home either. My mother was an opera singer. So what does she know about building a business?
Yeah. But you almost had a background as a priest, eh? I understood you almost joined the seminary long time ago.
Yeah, I did not almost, I did, but it didn't last long. It's just a small chapter, but it adheres to the myth. But it was in Cochabamba, in the Universidad Católica. And I was there in the great seminary for a month of 6 on a row. And it was like preparing potentially for a different journey altogether. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I did.
Does God still play a role in your life
No,
or religion?
um, not really, to be honest. Not really. I'm thrilled with the magic of science and the magic of nature and the awareness. That's probably my only, I would say, metaphysical assumption is that I myself am part of nature. I don't see myself or yourself as something different. And that is a metaphysical assumption. That's the only one, probably. For the rest, I'm thrilled with the magic of humanity in its skills to discover the not discovered thing. That to me in itself is also so magical. I don't need a God additionally to that.
And if there is a God and you could ask her one question, what would it be?
Why don't you show up?
Yeah. Hey, and you said before, you said, I'm still an angry man. What makes you angry?
Well, all the injustices in the world. You can mention all of them, from ecological destruction to violence to repression to women discrimination to everything that goes against my deepest values. That's
Yeah.
it. As long as I see all those injustices, it makes me angry. And also professionally angry, in the sense that I feel the urge to put all the energy I have to try to build something nicer.
And does that never frustrate you? Or what I mean is feel disempowered that you cannot do anything about that?
No, let me just face that I'm quite pessimistic on the end game in the sense that we are way overcrowded. And well, on the end game, I'm optimistic, but that's talking about maybe 5,000 years from now. But between now and the next 5,000 years, I'm quite pessimistic in the sense that we will see a lot of unnecessary violence in many directions and suffering. I know that our work is very limited and probably also in vain, but doing nothing is no option. I'm a angry professional, but not doing anything I think would be unethical given the gifts I have. You have to work with the gifts that were given to you.
And what are your gifts?
Analytical power, always the desire when I wake up after my breakfast to try to make a difference every day again. Every day I wake up and I feel this candle burning in me that says, Jeroen, you have to work your mission. It's sometimes very explicit, sometimes it's implicit, but it has become my second nature. And I thank, I don't know whom, but the fact that I still, after all those years, feel this internal flame. And I'm telling you, I'm going to the best job there is in the world. I came from the best job and I go to the best job. And if I would consider my next job as not being the best, then I would fail. Only by qualifying your next job as the best job in the world, I can keep that torch burning.
Thank you. I think these words were some great last words for your last breakfast brief, where we swapped sides. How was that?
Very good. And thank you for being such a wonderful colleague.
It was entirely my pleasure. Thank you for joining this breakfast brief. And we'll be back with another breakfast brief or another podcast when we have a new director, I hope. And for so long, just listen to one of the older episodes because there's still a lot to discover there. Thank you, Jeroen, and I wish you a great time at the International Cooperative. We will all miss you. And enjoy also some time off. You deserve it.